Have you ever seen a baby at the center of two milestones, one deeply personal, the other part of a nation's royal legacy? That's exactly what happened at Drottningholm Palace in Sweden on a warm June morning when Princess Ines, the youngest member of the Swedish royal family, was baptized in a ceremony that also marked her parents' 10th wedding anniversary. The double celebration, held at the Royal Chapel of Drottningholm Palace, brought together family, tradition, and the quiet symbolism that often defines royal events. It was a private yet public moment, where the past, present, and future seemed to meet in the same room. The atmosphere was calm and dignified, but you could also feel the emotional weight of the occasion. Princess Ines is the third child of Prince Carl Philip and Princess Sophia. Born in early May 2025, she holds the title Duchess of Västerbotten. Although not carrying the style of Her Royal Highness, due to changes made to the royal house by King Carl XVI Gustaf in 2019, she remains a part of the extended royal family. This change was part of a wider effort to modernize the monarchy, focusing formal roles only on those directly in line to the throne. Even so, events like a royal christening are still treated with care, formality, and a strong sense of heritage. The setting for the baptism was the chapel at Drottningholm Palace, a place steeped in history. Built in 1754, it has hosted numerous royal ceremonies, from weddings to other baptisms. On this particular day, the venue was filled with sunlight and carefully arranged floral decorations. The morning light reflected off the stone courtyard outside, adding a soft glow to the already grand setting. Inside, the chapel's high ceilings and wooden pews gave the space a timeless quality. It felt sacred and significant, yet somehow still intimate. Princess Ines was dressed in a cream-colored baptismal gown that has been worn by Swedish royal babies for generations. The gown dates back to 1906, first used at the baptism of Prince Gustav Adolf, the grandfather of the current king. Since then, more than 20 royal children have worn it, including Crown Princess Victoria, Prince Carl Philip, and Princess Estelle. The gown carries the embroidered names and baptism dates of those who have worn it before, making it not just a piece of clothing, but a historical document in itself. As Princess Ines was cradled in her mother's arms, she looked quietly out at the world around her. The images captured of that moment showed a baby who appeared calm and aware, with her small eyes open as if she sensed she was part of something bigger. The contrast between her age, just a few weeks old, and the centuries of tradition around her was quietly powerful. Princess Sophia, now 40, stood beside her daughter wearing a pale yellow gown designed by Swedish designer Lars Wallin. The color choice was deliberate, warm and bright, matching the summer light that streamed through the chapel windows. More notable than the dress, however, were the earrings she wore. They were the same ones she had chosen for her wedding day in 2015, linking the two events exactly 10 years apart. These weren't just accessories. They were symbols of memory and commitment, subtle reminders of the journey from newlywed to mother of three. Standing beside his wife was Prince Carl Philip, 46, dressed in his formal naval uniform. As the only son of King Carl XVI, Gustaf, and Queen Sylvia, he holds a unique position in the family, both deeply respected and warmly familiar to the Swedish public. His uniform added a sense of state and duty to the event, but his expression was more about pride and joy than formality. Their three sons, Alexander, Gabriel, and Julian, stood nearby, all wearing matching cream suits that echoed the tone of their sister's gown. In a particularly touching part of the ceremony, the boys were invited to take part in the baptism itself. They each poured water from different regions of Sweden into the baptismal font. This act was designed to symbolize the land's connection to the child, a reminder that Princess Ines is not just a member of a family, but of a country and its people. The use of water from different parts of Sweden added a layer of symbolism that was both simple and meaningful. It tied the ceremony to geography and national identity, grounding royal ritual in the everyday reality of a country that stretches from coastlines to forests. Watching the children perform this task, there was a sense of passing something on. Not just tradition, but the values behind it. What made this moment especially poignant was that it was led by children. In royal events, it's often the adults who play the central roles. Seeing the young princes help in their sister's baptism added a human element to the formal ceremony. It reminded observers that behind the titles and protocol, this was a family coming together to welcome a new member. Outside the chapel, guests arrived quietly and respectfully. Members of the Swedish royal family, close friends, and selected officials attended the event. The tone was private, but not secretive, open enough for the public to understand its importance, yet reserved in the way most royal family events are handled in Sweden. The christening of a royal baby is not a political or constitutional event, but it still holds significance. It marks the continuity of the monarchy in a ceremonial way. In a country where the royal family serves mostly symbolic and ceremonial roles, occasions like this help maintain a sense of national identity and shared history. Although Princess Ines may not have an active royal role in the future, her presence still matters. She's part of the larger picture, the extended family that connects tradition to modern life. Her baptism, paired with the celebration of her parents' decade-long marriage, offered a glimpse into the evolving nature of Sweden's royal institution. It also showed the personal moments that happen behind palace walls, moments that the public rarely sees. What stood out most was the balance. There was a strong sense of tradition, the historic gown, the palace setting, the formal outfits, but it was matched by the warmth of a real family. The event managed to be both elegant and genuine, structured yet emotional. In that balance, it reflected something wider about the Swedish monarchy itself. Its attempt to maintain relevance and connection in a modern world, while holding on to rituals that have meaning beyond the moment. For viewers who follow royal stories, this was not just another christening. It was a reminder that behind the symbols are people, parents marking a decade together, children learning their role in family life, and a baby girl at the start of her journey. A journey that may not be defined by duty or public role, but one that is still part of something deeply rooted. The baptism of Princess Ines Marie Lilian Sylvia, Duchess of Västerbotten, was not only a religious milestone, but a moment rich in symbolism for her family and for the monarchy itself. Ines, just a few weeks old, remained peaceful in her mother's arms. She wore the traditional cream-colored baptismal gown that has become a key symbol in the Swedish royal family's christenings. The gown has been used by royal babies since 1906, passed down through generations, with each child's name and baptism date carefully embroidered into the fabric. There's a kind of living timeline sewn into its threads, worn by her father, uncles, aunts, cousins, and now by her. The gown is more than ceremonial. It's a textile record of family continuity. The sense of tradition, however, was not stiff or overly formal. Instead, it was carried gently through thoughtful gestures and details. One of the more touching aspects of the ceremony was the role played by Ines's older brothers, Prince Alexander, Prince Gabriel, and Prince Julian. Each of the boys was dressed in a cream-colored suit, which matched both the baptismal gown and the general color palette of the event. Their appearance was coordinated, but their roles went beyond visual symmetry. During the ceremony, the three brothers took turns pouring water into the baptismal font. The water came from different parts of Sweden, a choice that underscored the bond between the royal family and the country they represent. While symbolic, it was also a moment that added emotional depth to the ceremony. Watching the young princes, aged 8, 6, and 3, participate in this way brought a new dynamic to the occasion. It shifted the focus, even for a brief moment, from formal duty to the small human interactions that define any family. Their involvement made the event more accessible and grounded. They weren't there just to smile for photos. They were part of the ritual. This gesture wasn't merely ceremonial. In a broader sense, it represented how the Swedish royal family continues to adapt tradition in ways that reflect modern values. Having children play an active role in what has historically been an adult-centered event signals an understanding that today's monarchy must resonate on a human level. There was something quite moving in seeing the three brothers take on that small but meaningful task, especially knowing that one day they will explain this moment to their sister. Throughout the chapel, there was a noticeable balance between history and contemporary life. Princess Sophia, Inez's mother, stood nearby, guiding her sons and watching her daughter with evident care. Her outfit was a pale yellow gown designed by Lars Wallin, a well-known Swedish designer whose work is often seen at royal events. The gown, light and softly structured, felt right for the season and the occasion. But more telling than the dress were her earrings. They were the very same pair she had worn on her wedding day exactly 10 years earlier. Unlike a typical fashion statement, this choice was deeply personal. It spoke of reflection, of remembering the path she and Prince Carl Philip had taken since that day in 2015, when they married in the very same palace. Carl Philip himself stood nearby, dressed in full naval uniform. The uniform served to remind everyone of his formal role, but there was no mistaking the emotion on his face. He looked not like a prince fulfilling a duty, but like a proud father quietly taking in the significance of the day. Standing beside his wife and children, he embodied the connection between royal service and personal identity. What was especially striking was the atmosphere inside the chapel. It wasn't overly grand or distant. It felt real. Guests included immediate family and close friends, many of whom have been part of the couple's lives for years. This included Princess Sophia's sisters, Lena and Sarah, who stood in the background with their own daughters. Their presence served as a reminder of Sophia's journey from a private citizen, once a model and television personality, to a mother of three and a central figure in the royal household. The two women, who have largely stayed out of the spotlight, appeared calm and comfortable in their roles as quiet supporters. Also in attendance were key members of the extended royal family. King Carl XVI and Gustav and Queen Sylvia sat with dignified pride. The king, who has reigned since 1973, has seen his family grow and change with time. And events like this highlight the blend of continuity and evolution that modern royalty represents. Queen Sylvia, originally from Germany and Brazil, continues to be a constant presence at such events, known for her graciousness and her dedication to both royal duties and charitable work. Crown Princess Victoria and her husband Prince Daniel were also present, along with their children, Princess Estelle and Prince Oscar. The presence of Victoria, the heir to the throne, brought an added sense of formality, as she represents the future of the monarchy. She wore a floral dress by Dolce & Gabbana, fresh, approachable, and well-suited to the occasion. One of the most memorable aspects of the day was the role of Princess Estelle, who at 13 years old stepped forward as one of Inez's godparents. In doing so, she followed in the footsteps of her uncle, Prince Carl Philip, who had served as her godfather many years earlier. There was a symmetry to it, a full-circle moment that didn't go unnoticed. Estelle wore a soft pink dress that had once belonged to her mother, Victoria. This hand-me-down choice quietly highlighted the values of family connection and thoughtful reuse, even in royal settings. Joining Estelle as godparents were Tiara Larsson, Princess Sophia's goddaughter and former bridesmaid, and Carl Philip's close friends Frederick von der Esch and Sandro Kocken. Each of these people represents not just a name or a title, but real relationships, friendships that have lasted through various chapters of life. By choosing a mix of family and close friends as godparents, Prince Carl Philip and Princess Sophia showed that the strength of the monarchy lies not just in bloodlines, but in the bonds that sustain them. Then came the most reverent moment of the day. Bishop Johann Dahlmann gently lifted Princess Ines and held her in front of the congregation. For a moment, the chapel fell completely silent. It wasn't the silence of routine, it was something deeper. A collective pause. As the baby looked upward, perfectly still, there was a feeling that everyone present sensed the importance of what they were witnessing. This wasn't about future titles or duties, it was about belonging, about family, and about a promise to guide this new life forward. While every royal baptism has a certain rhythm to it, this one stood out for the way it wove together heritage and human feeling. The rituals were there, the traditional gown, the official godparents, the royal uniforms, but so were the small gestures. Earrings from a wedding, water poured by brothers, a dress passed down from mother to daughter. These details mattered. They turned the ceremony from a formal event into something that people, both present and watching from afar, could connect to. The gathering of the Swedish royal family was notable not just for its formality, but for the visible warmth between its members. King Carl XVI, Gustav, and Queen Sylvia, both now in their 70s, stood arm in arm, smiling with ease. Their presence served as a living reminder of the continuity of the monarchy. Since the king's reign began in 1973, the royal family has grown and evolved, and events like this highlight not only how much has changed, but also how much has remained rooted in familiar tradition. Standing nearby was Crown Princess Victoria, the heir to the Swedish throne, dressed in a light floral dress that matched the season's tone. Her husband, Prince Daniel, stood beside her, while their two children, Princess Estelle and Prince Oscar, lingered close. Oscar, at just 9 years old, waved shyly at the cameras and onlookers. It was a subtle gesture, but one that reflected the more open, approachable image the Swedish royals often try to project. Princess Estelle, now 13, stood tall and composed, having played a central role in her cousin's baptism. As one of Ines's godparents, her involvement added a layer of symbolism to the ceremony. A decade earlier, her own baptism had featured her uncle Carl Philip, Ines's father, as one of her godparents. That thread of continuity didn't go unnoticed. Estelle's presence, wearing a soft pink dress once worn by her mother, added a sense of generational rhythm to the event. It also hinted at her growing role in the public eye. At 13, she is second in line to the throne, and already showing signs of the poise and responsibility expected of a future queen. Other members of the extended royal family also made appearances. Princess Madeleine, younger sister to Victoria and Carl Philip, attended the ceremony with her husband, Christopher O'Neill. Madeleine wore a soft-toned gown and stood with a calm, reserved expression beside her husband. Although she resides primarily in the United States with her family, her presence at the event highlighted the continued connection to her roots and the family traditions that define the Swedish monarchy. Christopher O'Neill, while not holding a royal title, has been a consistent and supportive figure in family events. He stood beside his wife during the ceremony, blending quietly into the backdrop, like many others who understand that while these moments are royal in nature, they are deeply personal as well. As cameras captured the family outside the chapel, Sophia's sisters Lena and Sarah stood nearby with their children. Their quiet presence reinforced the personal side of the day. They are not public figures in the same way as the royals, but they've been by Sophia's side since long before her marriage into the royal family. Their attendance, low-key but steady, was another reminder of how Sophia's life has changed and how her core relationships have remained. Sophia's journey from public figure to princess has not always been simple. Early in her relationship with Carl Philip, she faced public criticism and intense media scrutiny. But over the years, her role as wife, mother, and royal has gradually earned her broader respect. She has consistently chosen to keep her public profile focused on family and philanthropy, particularly through the work of the Prince Couples Foundation, which addresses issues like mental health, digital safety, and inclusion. The decision to combine the baptism with a celebration of their 10th wedding anniversary was intentional. It wasn't just a matter of convenience or calendar timing. It was a statement about what matters most to the couple. Earlier that week, Prince Carl Philip and Princess Sophia shared a previously unseen collection of wedding photos. These images, released through official channels and social media, were not grand or overly formal. They showed personal moments, quiet glances, small smiles, and details often missed in the public versions of royal weddings. The message was clear. 10 years later, their commitment remains strong, and their family continues to grow in a spirit of love and partnership. This gesture stood in contrast to the tightly controlled image the public often sees from royalty. Sharing those personal wedding photos wasn't just a nod to nostalgia. It was a gift to the public, a way of letting people in, just a little. It allowed viewers to connect with the couple on a more human level, seeing not just the prince and princess, but the husband and wife, the parents, the people behind the titles. As the guests mingled and posed for group photos, one couldn't help but notice the blend of tradition and modernity throughout the day. The historic chapel, the heirloom gown, the naval uniform, and the carefully chosen godparents. All these things belong to a long-standing royal script. But within that script were new notes, children pouring water, meaningful rewears of dresses and jewelry, and gestures rooted in memory, not ceremony. The Swedish monarchy has long been known for this approach. Compared to other European royal families, it is more reserved in its public displays and more streamlined in its structure. In 2019, King Carl XVI Gustaf made the decision to officially narrow the number of working royals. As part of that change, the children of Prince Carl Philip and Princess Madeleine were removed from the official royal house, meaning they would not carry out duties or hold the style of Royal Highness. However, they remain members of the extended royal family and continue to hold ducal titles. This shift was part of a wider trend among monarchies in Europe to redefine roles and reduce public expenditure. Yet even without official duties, family members like Princess Ines still occupy symbolic space in the public imagination. Her baptism may not signal a future queen or active royal, but it still matters. It marks her place in a lineage and in a story that belongs not only to her family, but to the country they serve. As the day drew to a close, the sun cast long shadows across the courtyard. The event hadn't been overly grand or theatrical. Instead, it had been deeply grounded, full of small moments that spoke louder than ceremony. A child's quiet gaze during the blessing, brothers working together to pour water into a font, a mother wearing earrings from her wedding 10 years later. These details told a story of continuity and care. Ines herself, too young to remember any of it, has now been formally welcomed into a family with a long and complex history. She won't grow up as a future monarch or necessarily take on a royal role, but her presence and her story still carry meaning. She represents a generation of royals who will likely live more private lives, shaped not by duty, but by the values of connection, community, and heritage. The photos taken outside the chapel will join others in the archives of Sweden's royal history, but more importantly, they will be kept in family albums, framed in homes, and remembered not just by the public, but by those who lived it. For the rest of the country, and perhaps the world, this was a sweet, quiet moment in the royal calendar. But for the family at the center of it, it was something much more, a celebration of faith, family, and a decade of love that continues to grow.